Greetings to all Earth creatures. We are Biorangers. I, as the captain of Bioranger, Captain N, and this is my team. Our team will present about brain infection. This present was held to discuss about the brain infection suffered by Version. It is true that he felt like his brain was going to melt. The various types of brain infections vary depending on the cause and location. Brain infections frequently affect other parts of the central nervous system, including the spinal cord. The brain and spinal cord are normally immune to infection, but when they get affected, the effects are frequently severe. Autoimmune encephalitis, AE, is a type of brain inflammation in which the body's immune system target healthy brain and spinal cord cell and tissue. Infection can also cause meningitis, which is inflammation of the layers of tissue that protect the brain and spinal cord, which is meninges. It's clear here that meningitis is a term used to describe a disease that mostly affects the meninges, whereas encephalitis is used to describe an infection that primarily affects the brain. Based on the two infections that have been described previously, this can be attributed to the immune system in the human body. The immune system can be defined as an animal body system of defense against agents that cause disease. But an immune system must identify and distinguish a wide range of agents known as pathogens, ranging from viruses to parasitic worms to function effectively. In the immune system, to address these threats, two major types of defense have emerged, namely innate immunity, non-specific defense, and acquired immunity, specific defense. However, what is meant by autoimmune disease that lead to autoimmune encephalitis, AE, a disorder in which our immune system wrongly assaults our body, is known as an autoimmune disease. Usually, the immune system protects us against pathogens such as bacteria and viruses. When it detects foreign intruders, it dispatches an army of fighter cells to battle them. Typically, our immune system can distinguish between foreign and native cells. In autoimmune disease, however, the immune system misidentify a component of our body such as our joint or skin as a foreign. It produces protein known as autobodies which attack healthy cells. As a result, the immune system attacks a component of one's own body, resulting in autoimmune disease. Antibodies that damage a person's red blood cell, for example, can cause some kind of anemia. That's all from me.
Hello everyone, now I will continue on the problem statement. Based on the latest research report, I will answer 3 problems that have been identified. Firstly, can infection affect the brain? Any infection can affect our brain. For meningitis, it is caused by a variety of factors. 6 factors lead to meningitis. The first is a bacterial infection, which is the presence of bacteria that cause meningitis. Second, viral infection, where the infection easily affects infants or children under 5 years of age and individuals who have weakened immune systems. Third, parasitic and fungal meningitis, where parasitic it is caused by parasites, which mainly spread through polluted water, food and soil, while fungal is caused by fungi that spread by inhalation or fungal spores. Then, chemical meningitis is through inflammatory responses to certain medications and procedures. For example, neurosurgical procedures or a lumbar puncture and certain drugs. Next, cancer factor, where cancer cells invade the meninges, which will cause an inflammatory reaction. Lastly, autoimmune disorders. On the other hand, encephalitis is caused by infection and weakness in the immune system. Firstly, an infection from a virus, namely herpes simplex viruses, varicella zoster virus, measles, mumps and rubella viruses, and also viruses spread by animals such as tick-borne encephalitis, Japanese encephalitis and rabies. Secondly, weakness in the immune system. It might be brought on by a prior infection in another region of the body, a tumor growing someplace in the body, or a vaccine. However, encephalitis is very rarely affected by bacteria, fungi and parasites. Number 2. Infection in brain systems. Diseases related to these brain infections can cause a range of symptoms in tissues near our brain, such as the meninges, brainstem and spinal cord. This disease, as well as the ensuing inflammation, might experience various symptoms that are still under control. However, they can cause brain damage, stroke, or even death in severe situations. Meningitis symptoms include high temperature, severe headache, stiff neck, photophobia, nausea, and vomiting. Number 3. Are meningitis and encephalitis contagious? Some variants of bacterial meningitis and encephalitis are contagious and can be spread from person to person. For example, with saliva, nasal discharge, feces, or respiratory and throat secretions. To illustrate, meningococcal meningitis spreads quickly among individuals who live together. Besides, children who have not received regular immunizations are at higher risk of having some kinds of bacterial meningitis. These diseases can attack unexpectedly and spread quickly.
Hi everyone, my name is Sophia. So now I will continue to make a brief description on this issue. So based on the current research, you need to know that bacterial organisms are the most common source of infection that can attack our brain. These viruses and bacterial organisms can affect the nerve system and causing neurological illness. The most common diseases that related to bacteria in the brain are encephalitis and meningitis. In general, meningitis is an infection of the membranes that surround the brain and the spinal cord, while encephalitis is an inflammation of the brain itself. Bacterial meningitis is a rare but a life-threatening condition. Several bacteria can cause an upper respiratory tract infection before traveling to the brain via the bloodstream. When certain bacteria directly infect the meninges, the illness might develop. There are several types of meningitis you need to know. The first one is pneumococcal meningitis, second one is a meningococcal meningitis, and the third one is Haemophilus influenza meningitis. Pneumococcal meningitis is the most frequent type of bacterial meningitis and also the most dangerous one. Streptococcus pneumonia is the bacteria that causes the disease as well as pneumonia, blood poisoning, and ear and sinus infection. Children under the age of 2 and people with a weaker immune systems are particularly vulnerable. Pneumococcal meningitis can cause a wide range of neurological problems, from hearings to serious brain damage. Pneumococcal vaccines are available for some strains of the bacteria. The bacteria Neisseria meningitis cause meningococcal meningitis. Infants under the age of 1 year old, those with impaired immune system, travelers to countries where the disease is endemic, and college students, especially a freshman, military recruits, and others who live in the dorms are all high-risk population. If a meningococcal meningitis is detected, person who have been in close contact with an infected person should be given antibiotics to avoid infection. Lastly, meningitis caused by Haemophilus influenza was once the most frequent type of bacterial meningitis. The Haemophilus influenza type B vaccine, fortunately, has considerably reduced the number of cases. Okay, now I will continue to explain about the complication of meningitis. So, every disease has its own complications, right? So it can be a short time or a long time complication. The germs and bacteria are capable of causing significant damage in a short period of time. The infection of meningitis can cause brain damage or even death if left untreated. According to studies, 11 to 19% of those who recover will have long-term complications, according to trusted source. Those figures could be greater among the younger generation. The severity of complication also can be proportional to the severity of the initial infection. So, one of the most common complications of the meningitis is hearing loss. It may be partially or totally lost. Usually, after the people being affected by meningitis, they will go through some hearing tests to check on their hearing problems. Besides of having vision loss, another complication after being affected by meningitis is loss of limbs. If this happens, the patient needs to go through amputation. An amputation is the surgical removal of part of the body. This procedure is required to stop an infection from spreading throughout the body and to remove the damaged tissue. So that's all some of the complication if someone is affected by meningitis. So that's all from me. Thank you.
Nice description of Ranger P. Thank you. Hello everyone. Without wasting time, I will continue the discussion of our issue. Based on joint research, I have found the various types of bacteria that present in brain when have an infection. Bacterial organisms can affect the nerve system, causing neurological illnesses. The most common diseases that related to bacteria in the brain are encephalitis and meningitis. Bacterial meningitis is a rare but life-threatening condition. Several bacteria can cause an upper respiratory tract infection before traveling to the brain via the bloodstream. I have identified 3 bacteria associated with meningitis, namely, first, Streptococcus pneumonia, second, Neisseria meningitis, and third, Haemophilus influenza. Firstly, Streptococcus pneumonia is the bacteria that causes the disease as well as pneumonia, blood poisoning, which is septicemia, and ear and sinus infections. Well, pneumococcal meningitis causes a wide range of neurological problems, from hearing to serious brain damage. Secondly, the bacteria Neisseria meningitis causes meningococcal meningitis, which is infants under the age of 1 year, those who with impaired immune systems, and travelers to countries where disease is endemic, and also college students, which is especially for freshmen, and military recruits and other who live in dorms are all high-risk population. Last but not least, which is meningitis caused by Haemophilus influenza, was once the most frequent type of bacteria meningitis. Okay, now I will continue our discussion with immunity. Immunity can be broadly classified into 2 types, which are innate immunity and acquired immunity. Innate immunity consists of external barriers, which is first-line defense mechanism, and internal cellular and chemical defenses, which is second-line defense mechanism. Okay, now I will continue our discussion with difference between innate immunity and acquired immunity. First of all is innate immunity. Innate immunity is response as non-specific defense against any pathogen upon first exposure. Secondly, innate immunity has no immunological memory. When repeatedly exposed to the same pathogen, it responds with identical potency. Thirdly, the components of innate immunity are consisting of phagocytes, which is monocytes, macrophages, and neutrophils. Also, natural killer cells, or known as NK cells. On the other hand, acquired immunity is response as specific response to specific pathogen on third exposure. Secondly, acquired immunity has immunological memory. When re-exposed to the same pathogen, the presence of memory cells causes a more fast and strong response. Thirdly, the components of acquired immunity are consisting of B and T lymphocytes. That's all for me.
Hi everyone, before I ended this meeting with summary, I would like to share a few more words on this discussion. On question, how does the adaptive immune system attack invaders? Actually, only B and T cells triggered by antigen binding grow and create a particular immune response to an invading microbe, a process known as clonal selection. B cells lead up to plasma cells, which procedure and produce antibodies into the circulation, resulting in humoral immunity. Antibodies kill microbes or their toxins when they are outside of bodily cells. Cytotoxic T cells kill cancer cells, virus-infected cells, and certain microorganisms, resulting in cell-mediated immunity. Helper T cells induce both humoral and cell-mediated adaptive immunity. That's all I want to add. To sum up what we have already discussed today, in conclusion, brain infections can cause many other diseases due to its attack on control system. Brain infections may have symptoms like muscle weakness, change in behavior, memory problem, and many more that can disturb individual performance. Brain infections exist from many sources, and most of them are from bacteria, fungi, and viruses that have access to the brain from the exposure of the human's brain. For example, meningitis. Meningitis is a swelling of the protective membranes that have a role to cover the brain and the spinal cord that resulted in life-threatening, which is the fatal. It will happen suddenly and spread in no time. It can be spread through contact and also in open infected air such as coughing. The diseases that caused by brain infections can be contagious and can be not, which is can be spread to others and can be not. It depends on the variants of the bacteria that infected the brain. However, brain infections can be treated based on the kind of infection. So we need to seek early prevention to prevent brain infections. So that's all for the discussion today. I hope all Earth's creation have a lot of information today. That's all from us. Thank you.